The third quarter was nice, but the rest of that game, well, hit it, Eric.
Welcome in to another episode of the PHNX Suns Podcast Postgame Edition. Technically, yes, we do have sexy sacks tonight because the Phoenix Suns defeated the Portland Trailblazers 103-97. But you get a sad sexy sacks from Espo because let's be honest, that game outside of the third quarter, not very pretty. So, listen, when it comes to the sexy sacks tonight, this is what you get.
It's like a cigar.
As Matrix in the chat says, not so sexy sacks. Emma, what's up, Emma? Miss you said, Espo, that's an ugly sacks. I mean, listen, it was an ugly game for the most part.
Not the first person to tell me that, Emma. Not the first person to tell me that.
Nate said, sacks, not sexy. Not in this one. How are you guys feeling after that one? I'm just glad we got a W. We didn't lose.
Look, as my lawyer, so says Jay, said on Twitter, they're 5-1. 4 of those wins last year would have been losses.
Totally.
This is what we call progress, and in life, that's all you can hope for is progress. Making, learning from where you've been. The Suns have done that. A win is a win. 5-1 is better than most thought they would start with this difficult schedule. I will take it.
I always say that there's no such thing as an ugly win. Boy, did they test that today.
I was going to say, are you sure about that?
Boy, did they test that today. I still am firmly there, but if ever there was an argument to be made, a rebuttal, this is definitely it.
You've watched Suns basketball for a while. Really? This is the first time you went, maybe wins can be ugly?
Oh, no. This is my first time speaking on it in front of a microphone, though.
Well, let me tell you, this is your first time that you're going to do something else, too. We have a thing called the Buscemi spectrum that we do in games like this, my friend. Mm-hmm. And it is time to take a look at our Buscemi spectrum. This is a full-on Buscemi tonight.
Oh, yeah.
This is cross-eyed, weird outfit, full Buscemi this evening. Messy Buscemi, try-hard Buscemi, cool Buscemi. No, full Buscemi. And I considered finding a whole nother category for this one because, that was 1 quarter of good basketball and 3 that – my God, this was not a Suns win. This was the Blazers were lucky enough to let you have this one. And I mean that in the full way of they let you have this one. So, full
honestly,
Buscemi.
I'm in total agreement with you, Espo. The Suns had no business being this close at the end of the game when it comes to the Blazers. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Blazers, but it just is what it is. You know what I mean? The Suns had no business playing the way that they did tonight. Now, I know a lot of the game, too, some of the looks were nice and open. They were good looks, and the shots just weren't falling. That's okay. But then you have a third quarter like you had, and then fourth quarter, you let that slip away. You got to play a full 48 minutes. And if you have a bad first quarter or a bad first half, and you have a third quarter like we saw tonight, you can't come out all lackadaisical in the fourth quarter. You got to get your business done.
This is a loss against 27 of the other teams in the NBA so far this season. Not speaking to what they did last season, not their expectations, the way all of the teams in the league are playing now, this is a loss against pretty much every other team right now. And I think obviously there's takeaways from it, but maybe the biggest one is that y'all have to make sure y'all have that switch that stays on. You can't score 44 in the third against the Blazers and then score 16 in the fourth while giving up 32.
Okay, you know those fish in the tanks that kind of suck on the side of it? They basically eat all the garbage that's in the tank left from the other fish. That is who you let go on a 30-6 run after the third quarter. This is the bottom feeder of the NBA, and you let him go on a 30-6 run. You can have that kind of mental lapse, like you're saying, against the Portland Trail Blazers. You have that kind of mental lapse against a Philadelphia 76ers team who's even struggling. You're not going to have the same kind of result.
30-6.
Yep.
That blew my mind.
Yep.
30-6, especially after that third quarter. Again, like, what are we doing, Suns? And listen, I'm not trying to be super negative because I am very glad that they did pull it off and they got the win, because I know I saw somebody on Twitter who was like, this feels like the Spurs game all over again last year. And you know how much that bothered me last year.
Yeah.
So I am very thankful that the Suns won this game, so he didn't have to go to the deepest, darkest place.
And the anniversary was what, yesterday or the day before yesterday? Yeah. So that's eerie.
Yeah.
It was something. That was a very weird game in general. You score 44, like you said, in the third, and then the rest of the game, you only scored 15 more points than that, if I've done my math correct, because I think you had 44 in the third, you had 43 in the first half of a game. You scored 16 in the fourth. Yeah, your third quarter was everything in that game. It was something, but a win's a win.
It is. And listen, I know we kind of started off on the negative side of things, so let's flip it back around and talk about the positive from this game. And the positive was that third quarter. They started the quarter on an 18-7 run. They had 18 points in 4 minutes, more points in the third quarter with 44 than they did in the entire first half with just 43. So that third quarter was impressive, and the way that they were able to turn it on. Whatever Coach Bud continues to tell these guys at halftime is working.
I think it was just as simple as they went out and turned it on. I hate the good teams sometimes, and we saw the bad side of this last year. They thought they could turn it on whenever. It didn't really work. I felt like tonight was one of those nights that they played with their food. They realized it was the Blazers. You kind of sleepwalk through some of it. The third, they turn it on and they get a 26-point lead, and then they go, all right, we can turn it off again. Because they were missing easy shots. They were missing wide open shots. This isn't your typical game. I'm not overly worried. It was just a weird night.
That third quarter, 44 points like we spoke to, 17 field goals made, 16 assists, 0 turnovers. That's what you want right there from this team. That's the space that they're looking to operate in on consistency. And you look at defensively, they held the Trailblazers to 7 for 27 from the field, 25.9%. That's a comprehensive quarter. You have to be able to repeat that. Maybe not to those extents, but you have to be operating in that space a lot more frequently.
Well, yeah, the third quarter was exactly what you think this offense is capable of, right?
Yep.
The other 3 quarters is the polar opposite of how bad it can be if they're not firing on all cylinders. And I think we're going to see more of those third quarters than we will first, second, and fourth quarters this season. But you better hope that that's the case.
I mean, I greatly hope that that is the case. All right, let's dive a little bit deeper here by looking inside the box presented by Desert Financial Credit Union, Arizona's #1 credit union named by Forbes.
What's in the box?
Steven, break these numbers down for us, would you?
I think the biggest number, 111 field goal attempts for the Portland Trail Blazers.
Blessings to the Portland Trail Blazers, though.
And that ties the season high for field goal attempts in the game. I think Memphis had it last week when they played the Chicago Bulls. Getting that part out the way, though, the Suns grabbing a season high in rebounds, that's not the specific number when we're talking about the rebounds, but I want to make sure we took note of that. Now, granted, there was a lot of misses from Portland within that 111 field goal attempts, but opportunities were there and they made it happen there, so I want to make sure we shout that out. In addition to that, though, 52 three-point attempts. Espo, I believe you have some historic context for us on that one.
The second most attempts in a game. 53 is the most attempted in a game by the Suns, that number will fall this year.
I thought it would have been this game, quite honestly. We said pregame that they would let that thing fly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at halftime, I was like, okay, they're going to get there. They come up one short. But, you see the other big number within all of it, 29 assists on 35 field goals made for the game. That's not what we saw on consistency last season. Frank Vogel said he wanted to see them consistently at 30 assists. We've seen them close to more frequently in this early portion of the season than all of last season.
Yeah, I mean, this is a weird game when a team has, 14 more attempts than they do have points in a game. It's so bizarre to even see that. And man, this was a weird one.
Yeah,
It really was too. And I know every team is putting emphasis on, taking more threes, but even the Blazers at 43, I feel like is pretty high for even what they've been trying to do this season. But 52 for the Suns, I'm impressed there. Granted, it would have been nice if we had seen more of them fall tonight. But like we've been saying since we started the show, tonight it felt more like just shots weren't falling, not that they were really bad looks. And that seems to be a theme.
But
in the sense of like, at least not bad looks, right?
I mean,
they're not forcing it.
You got to consider, though, if this was last year and they took fewer threes and those were 2-point buckets, this game ends differently.
That's a loss.
Right? That's the reality of the 3 is worth more than 2 philosophy is you can hide some of these blemishes because you are playing the math game, and that's how they won.
Yep, and that's, to my point, this is a perfect template for that. You extend your margins when you get up and you play the math game to the extent that Mike Budenholzer is looking to this season. So credit to them for trusting their process and playing to that. It's got to look a whole lot better than this, though, 100%.
Yeah. Hello in the chat said maybe at 32% take some more middies. How are you guys feeling about that? For me, it feels like that would be falling back into bad habits for this team, that if it's quote unquote not working, you revert back to what you know. And then that kind of discredits and sort of undermines the goal of the season to commit to shooting more threes. Can
you really say it doesn't work, though? You got the win. So like we were saying, the math actually works in it, where last year, if you shoot this cold and you're shooting middies, you lose this game. It's that simple to me.
Well, and I think another layer to this is that Kevin Durant and Devin Booker still hit big mid-range shots when three-pointers weren't falling. It wasn't like they only took threes, so they didn't abandon it completely. I think they found a good balance. They just didn't hit a lot of shots tonight.
And that's what I was going to get to. You don't need more people taking mid-range pull-ups. You just need your best players to balance that. Those are the only 3 that will be taking mid-range jumpers outside of a random Tyus floater or an Oso floater. Everybody else is playing to the template that Budenholzer has in place.
Jamal in the chat was talking about the 3-point shooting and saying that, we don't need too many 3-pointers, essentially. And I don't understand this mindset, why people are saying this in NBA circles. I've seen a lot of this on social. And to me, look, I'm not a huge analytics guy, but I do understand the simple math of it. And the reality is, this is the NBA now. You're not going to go backwards, right? Because it doesn't make sense. And these young guys are coming in and they're shooting threes since they were in AAU ball, because that's the way basketball is. And so you're not putting this genie back in the bottle. You're going to wind up, I think, seeing it stretch even further. At some point, I think it'll get a little too much if you're seeing 60, 65 3 attempts, and maybe it comes back a little bit. Mm-hmm. But this is not the point where it's going to all of a sudden go back to, teams are trying 25 threes in a game, and the mid-range is really important. Those days are gone, and they're gone for good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to the point of needing more balance, right, and wanting to feed Nurk in the paint when the threes aren't falling, that is something that you have talked a lot about, Steven.
Yeah, there's just a balance to all of it, though. And I think that you can't, there's examples out there over the course of games where if the team has a baseline that they work with defensively, you don't just shift from it because it's not working. You work to do it better before you start adjusting and completely abandoning what has become part of your identity. It's a different conversation, different context, but there's a lot of similarities between those two there.
Yeah, look, somebody in the chat, I'm sorry, it's moving fast, but said watching 100 threes be shot in a game is boring. I don't find it boring. I think guys backing down guys that we saw in the 90s and early 2000s was boring. Like, dump it down to a guy, waste 15 seconds of the shot clock as they back somebody down and they turn and shoot, whether they make it or not. That's boring to me, right? Would I like to see a few more dunks in today's NBA? Yeah.
Yes.
I'd love to see some Sean Kemp kind of slams, but I don't want to go back to seeing guys back each other down. There's nothing interesting about that.
See, I mean, I don't know that I fully agree with you on that in the sense of like a little bit of variety is nice. It is nice and fun and enjoyable to watch teams score and win games in a variety of ways, right? Like, especially some of the big, like, yes, 100% to can we have some more dunks in NBA games for sure? Because those are just the monster plays that get an entire arena on their feet. You know what I mean? And threes can absolutely do that. But even a Kevin Durant midi every once in a while is just like, holy cow, what are we doing?
Well, yeah, but
so you just want a little bit of a mix.
Kevin
I'm not
Durant's
saying
the
take less
exception,
threes,
though.
but he's on our team,
No,
so
I
the
know.
exception fits for us a little bit.
Look,
I just get the variety desire.
Look, yeah, would I love to see Hakeem Olajuwon do the dream shake again and have that? Yeah, but even then it was few and far between that actually made it interesting. Right?
Fair.
That's the tough part for me. By the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. I said it in the chat the other night when I was on, but if we get to 300 likes, I may mute Nacho for you guys for next post game. All right, 300 likes. All right, let's have some fun. You all use your vote, use your voice, use your like button tonight. And you know what? I have the power to make that happen if the people speak. All right.
And I will say, not that I can follow that up in particular, but this is also why I continue to also emphasize that Kevin Durant and his mid-post touches. I know some people don't like them for whatever reason. I don't understand, but they have extreme value because it breaks up the predictability of the Suns' offense. It might end up resulting in another three-point opportunity, but the process in which it comes about is going to be completely different. It's not going to be pick and roll, kick it 2 times, and now somebody's open. He's going to end up getting double teamed, and if he doesn't, that's a 40-piece from 2-point range alone in one game. So, yeah,
look, I think I'm not saying you don't take any, right?
Of course.
I think there is room for working into your offense, and they do. It's not like they've said, if you do that, you will be benched if you shoot a mid-range shot. I just feel like it's something that you're not going to stop shooting threes is the point.
Exactly.
So.
Definitely. All right. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we are going to name our big, bright Chinese star. Somebody asked me the other day in the chat, what was the promo code for Game Time? That promo code, of course, is PHNX. And if you're wondering what is Game Time is the best place to get your tickets for sports, for concerts, for theater, for comedy. You name it, Game Time has you covered. And right now, Game Time created a new feature called the Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One of my favorite features of Game Time, of course, is the all-in pricing. So you can toggle this feature and it shows you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account, redeem that code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time?
Yes.
Woo. I got to go get a truck from Sanderson Ford. All right, because you got to pile all those threes in something, all these likes we're getting in something. You need a giant truck for this kind of thing. And PHX is proud to have Sanderson Ford as our official vehicle partner. That is what it is, my friends. Their 65-acre facility is the largest Ford dealership in the nation. nation. So large that you can fit so many likes in it. Let me tell you that. When you add all that up, the sales, including retail and fleet sales, they sell more Fords than anybody else in the country. More Fords. Like, we're talking, how the Blazers had 111 shot attempts. More than that on like an hourly basis. That's how much Sanderson Fords are selling. So head to Sanderson Ford. Check out the new F-150 truck, a 3.9 financing for 60 months, plus up to $4,000 cash back, and pick up a free pair of tickets to see Weezer, Sublime, and more at November 9th, because why wouldn't you want to? While supplies of 100 tickets last. No purchase or test drive required. Disclaimer, offer on 2024 F-150 STX OAC from Ford Credit. One pair of tickets per household and requires a valid driver's license. And hit that like button, all right?
Can I just give a shout out to the chat? Y'all are hilarious tonight. This has been so funny after what was not a fun, exciting game for sure. So appreciate you guys. Also, a bonus shout out to Joshua, who sent us a super chat. Thank you so much for that. They said, Hawkeyes beat the Badgers, Suns beat the Blazers. Good night in my sports world. Guess it was a good night to purchase League Pass. Go Suns from Iowa. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Appreciate you all being here with us all the way from Iowa.
Welcome to the League Pass crew. You got to pick your side piece as well, because everybody knows you need that League Pass side piece.
It's a thing, and no one will judge you for it. We do have one more super chat from Lucas as well. Thank you, Lucas. They said, Grayson getting in a rhythm is the best part about this game. Sweet baby Grayson is back. And that leads us right into our big, bright, shiny star presented by Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details.
What's in the box?
Try again.
I'm a big, bright, shining star.
There we go. He's a big, bright, shining star. Grayson Allen finished with 18 points tonight. He had a career-high 3 blocks, added in 2 rebounds, and was 4 of 7 from deep, 7 of 12 from the field. Grayson Allen has officially arrived for the season.
And big shout out to Deandre Ayton behind the Mac, making things work.
I know you did not call me Deandre Ayton there.
Oh,
I know. Because I'm at least shooting 50%.
I think Grayson's smartest move tonight was giving credit to his wife on the birth of his child in the postgame. Post-game interview coming off the court. That is a smart man. All the credit, to Mrs. Grayson for having her child and having their child. He came up big tonight, and we said it. It ain't because he's got more muscle. It's because he ain't sleeping, and he had an Achilles injury. And tonight was the night where you went, oh, yeah, that's Grayson Allen. That's why you have him on the roster. And that's why some of us put money on him to win 6th Man of the Year.
yeah, he did a little bit of everything tonight. Defense, obviously the 3-point shooting. But one of my favorite things with Grayson that continues to be a great value to the Suns for him is his ability to put the ball on the deck. And that's the perfect counterpunch for when you're such a great sniper, the likes that he is. Everybody's closing out long on you. You can take that as an advantage for you. They're running past you. You're able to get to the paint. And we saw him with one of his 2 baskets in the paint, that left-handed floater that he threw up today. Those are of such high value for the team, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him kind of get his feet wet with this new context that he's operating in.
The only thing that makes me a little bit sad is that we now, I think, officially have to put to bed the outrageous tinfoil hat conspiracy theory that Grayson Allen got too jacked, and that's what gave him the slow start to the season, and it ruined everything about him. So RIP to that crazy Twitter conspiracy.
That was a tinfoil beanie. That was not a hat. that came from straight over on that side of the set.
Excuse me.
Don't put that bad juju on me, Ricky Bobby.
I was just having fun playing with the internet because, why not?
Sometimes don't you dare insult the integrity of the tinfoil hat club,
Don't
Lindsay.
you dare try and hop on Espo's bandwagon.
Being super sarcastic right now
about my beanie. It's like the best club ever. I don't know, but either way, we can put that to bed now. We don't have to worry about Grayson Allen having become too jacked to shoot threes. I think we're in an okay spot now. It just took him a minute to get into quote unquote game shape, midseason form, but he's here.
Ashton in the chat said or asked, did Grayson steal Eric Gordon's driving to the basket ability? No, because he had it, but he definitely stole Eric Gordon's Derrick Henry-esque stiff arms. He's
Yes.
going to the basket. People are legit bouncing off.
Yeah, no, he stole Eric Gordon's build. That's what he stole.
He's just taller. I agree 100%.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I am so glad that he doesn't do the jump pass
Oh,
like
man.
Eric Gordon. If I see Grayson do that, I'm off the Grayson bandwagon. You can ship him to whatever city you want if he starts doing that.
Well, he's taking a lot from Eric Gordon's game, so I don't know what else he can take from him but that. So stay tuned.
Look, I actually like that Grayson has a little bit more bulk and going in the lane like that because, I mean, Bradley Beal's a good example of not having a lot of that, going in the lane, getting hurt when you get knocked down. Grayson's going to run through a guy now, and I kind of like that about it. So,
I also, the 3 blocks, a career high.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of that grown man strength maybe now that Grayson has bulked up. Could that be a product of that potentially?
Yeah.
Or am I reaching here? It's very, very possible fact that I'm reaching.
The way they grade blocks now, or the way they register blocks, it's such a fine line. It's really at the discretion of whoever it is that's tagging stats for a game.
And when you're at home,
yes.
good to have that on your side.
No, for sure. For sure. That's why I'm like, because you think block shots, you're thinking about somebody contesting at the basket or blocking a shot when someone attempts it from the mid-range. And he's getting a handful, just getting his hand in there like Chris Paul. Chris Paul has like, I don't know how many blocks in his career.
Yeah.
How many of those is him actually contesting at the basket?
It ain't a Dikembe Mutombo wrestling.
No,
piece.
it's not at all.
He
Not at
ain't
all.
doing that, but
Right.
you know, yeah, it is what it is.
Well, it is what it is.
The impact is there though, for sure. Lindsay.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get to see more of it this season from him as well.
By the way, did Amelia really in the chat say Grayson's got that bubble butt now?
She did.
Wasn't that? And she gave us Cheeks Clinic last year. We got bubble butt from her this year. That might be Grayson's nickname now.
Bubble butt.
Bubble butt.
Not gonna hear me call him that.
We'll get you by the end of the
I ain't
season. That's the goal. We got to convince Steven to call
Well,
Grayson a bubble butt.
You
Well,
cancel Christmas on that thing because it's not happening.
Let me be clear.
I meant season, not Christmas. We got a whole season to work on it.
Let me be clear. I won't say that in the locker room though, because we've seen what could happen in the locker room. We'll get to that later.
We will definitely talk about that. I also want to give a shout out to some other guys from the team. We'll start with Kevin Durant, who finished tonight with 21 points and 9 rebounds. Also, tonight, KD became the 16th player in NBA history to reach 10,000 career field goals. The only other active player who has reached that milestone is, shocker, LeBron James. And then also another interesting little nugget of information here. Zona tweeted out that Kevin Durant is second in the NBA in minutes per game at 39.3. He only trails Tyrese Maxey, who is at 41. KD played 38 minutes in this one. I think if there was one thing that I was more genuinely upset about from tonight's game is that in the pregame, I talked about how I hoped that they would take care of business early to be able to give guys like KD a little bit of a break in the back half of this game, because he has already, in just 6 games this season, played a very high amount of minutes per game, which is not something I would like to continue doing to him.
Well, that's a lot of the issue that Frank Vogel ran into last season because the team was just so far too dependent on him to be their best selves. I think it's not as pressing this season for Bud as it was for Frank last season. But some of it's Kevin Durant's fault too. Like I said before, he's just so freaking good. You don't want to just leave him on the bench.
No.
Even if it is what the game plan may have been. He has a high streak. You need the defense. He's just doing whatever the team needs.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't have much choice tonight either. I
Correct.
mean, you wanted to give them that time on the bench, but when you see a 30-6 run happen, you can't just sit there and go, well, you know what?
Exactly.
These guys need the rest. No, it's you get back in there and figure out a way to scratch and claw this win, so it's as much on the guys tonight not getting that time off than it is anybody.
Totally. Absolutely. But still, I just wish they would have been able to take care of business so that some of them could have a little bit of a rest.
It'll come this year. I think this year will be different than last. There will be games where there is not much doubt and you can shut it down early, and
That's
you'll
fair.
be all right.
If they
Ted
keep-
does bring up a really good point. Sorry, Steven.
Mhm.
He said, I'm not as concerned about the minutes this year because these minutes are lower usage than last year's less ISO ball, which is a great point.
And, you know, when you get into these type of situations, that's exactly what I was getting ready to speak to. The way this team is set up, he shouldn't have to be playing such a laborious 37, 38
Right.
compared to last season. And then the other big thing is when you just look down the line, hopefully if they're winning at this pace, that they don't have to play as many games with their starters playing or logging so many minutes compared to the last couple of seasons.
By the way, I have to correct something. I got it wrong. It was not Amelia that came up with Cheeks Clinic. It was Priscilla. So my
Priscilla.
apologies, Priscilla. You do get your credit for Cheeks Clinic. Also, Hello wants us to do a Suns best bubble butt draft. It would be Charles Barkley
Ooh.
1. I think Oliver Miller would have to be in there as well. There's a whole range of guys that could go high on the board there.
We could do this.
Steven, you'll have to break that down, look at the film.
Man,
and
you
get
got
there.
nothing to break down.
We got you. Hello. We're going to do a bubble butt draft at some point in time
That's
in this
insane.
season. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be Steven's favorite episode ever
I'm
on this
requesting
podcast.
a day off in advance. Just let me know.
Oh my goodness. All right, guys. We're going to take another quick break. And then on the other side, we're going to hear from Coach Bud on tonight's game. Listen, it's the weekend, and I know the Suns just wrapped up, and you guys are here with us watching the post-game show, and we appreciate you for that. But if you're running errands tomorrow or you're going out with friends, make sure you stop at Circle K on your way out to fill up your gas tank, to pick up some delicious beverages or snacks for whatever adventure you are about to head out on. Because make sure you do it with the Circle K Inner Circle. It's a free membership program because when you have that membership program, you're going to save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. You're going to save 3 cents per gallon every single day, and you're going to get hooked up with a ton of member exclusive deals and discounts, like the member exclusive beverage deal that is happening right now. Inner Circle members like you can get any size Polar Pop or Froster for just 79 cents. So join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for all the details.
I give a shout out to my friends at Brand New Bills. I just got one of their fitted hats for the first time. I'm a big fitted hat stan, and I love it. It's one of the most comfortable fitted hats that I have ever owned. And I love their snapbacks too. I'm not usually a snapback guys, and it is spectacular. I need to get them on the bucket hat train, but other than that, I love everything they bring. You can elevate your brand with Branded Bills, the perfect headwear and apparel. They do custom hats. We're getting in some custom PHNX hats coming up, and I am so excited for these, and I think you're going to love them too. Can't wait to show them to you. So whether you need a snapback, trucker hat, fitted, beanies, or even t-shirts, Branded Bills has you covered with performance and style. They also have a partnership with ASU, Bullbound, U of A, not so much, as part of their campus collection. So check them out. They're a local company from Mesa, so you want to support them. Head to brandedbills.com and use the promo code PHNX for 20% off your first order.
All right, let's go ahead and hear what Coach Bud had to say about weighing the positives versus the negatives from a game like this one.
Yeah, a little bit of both. And I mean, you know, the first half, I think there was actually, you know, if we go back and look at the film, a lot of good looks. I think we generated a lot of good opportunities. And some nights you just don't shoot it that well. You know, so I think as long as we're, you know, executing and creating good opportunities and creating good looks, I think a lot of the first half we did that. Then we got sloppy, particularly on the boards. And, you know, so I think that's the first half. And the fourth quarter, we got to be better. But, you know, I think we always teach from both the positive and areas where we need to improve.
I think Espo pretty much hit this one on the money already when speaking to this team playing the way they needed to for a quarter. And then a lot of the other things that we saw was just them missing shots. No, you don't want to just make it so black and white, but sometimes it is just that simple.
Yep. Yeah, I do like that he's talking about wanting to coach from the positive, though.
I do
Yeah.
too.
Look at what worked, focus on that, and say we need more of this, right? Look at that third quarter, break down what worked, and how you can get to that throughout quarters. Because Yeah, you can sit there and break down every miss that you had in those other quarters, but I don't think that gets you very far, right? I don't think that really helps you change what's going on. Looking at what's working, why the offense works in those moments, and hammering that home, I think is the more effective way to go about it, especially with a game like this. When you move to 5-1, look at the positive, figure out how to replicate it on Monday when you got the 76ers here.
I really like Coach Bud, and I really like the way that he has integrated himself into this organization and this team. Like keeping things positive, like sitting down. And that's not to say that coaches in the past here haven't done this, but for whatever reason, I feel like he is connecting with these guys in a better way than some of those coaches were able to or weren't able to, because they're fully bought into things, it feels like. Even though we have had some bumps in the road in these first 5 games or 6 games, you see the vision and you see the buy-in to the vision. And leading from a positive place, like you get more flies with honey, right? Isn't that how it works?
Well, I mean, think about it. Monty Williams had a positive approach, slightly different than what Bud
Very
brings.
much so.
I think
yeah.
I think this comes off as a more natural. You're not hearing a lot of folksy sayings and different things from Bud right now, but you can tell when that's the approach, the locker room has a more cohesive feel to it. Now, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing Frank Vogel may not have approached things quite the same way, and I think it helps. So,
Jamal in the chat said Coach Bud is the leader, you can tell. I think that's also, it could just be like his natural personality, his vibes, the way he approaches things. If the guys feel like he wants to and is willing and is demanding almost, but in a way that's not like, pick me, it's more like, I am this person as your leader, like that's a big thing.
Well, and I think one of the things we heard about Vogel last year with the team was that he was trying to be like an accountability guy, but it was too late into the season and it just seemed fake. From everything we heard from the guys, as soon as Coach Bud took the job, he immediately started holding them accountable. And if you have that track record when you're in a game like this, if it's positive or negative, you're taking what he's saying more seriously.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty obvious that these guys were looking for a coach to step in and fill part of that void. And it seems like that Coach Bud is. Now, it's 6 games. A lot can change. But again, 4 of these last year probably would have been losses. You would have been sitting in a much different situation. And because you're in it together, rowing in the same direction, you can pull out some of these wins where maybe you shouldn't have.
It definitely feels genuine the way he goes about his approach to the team. He's more reserved than other coaches in terms of what we see in his media availabilities. I'm sure he's a whole lot more open than what he portrays to the media when he's not with the media, when he's with his coaching staff, as well as the players. And, I mean, there's no better reference than just kind of looking at in Game 6, I believe, of the 21 finals, where everybody's expecting this rah-rah speech. You got Monty talking about this, that, and the third. And you go to the Bucks. I'm sorry about that. I know.
Thanks, man.
And then you see Bud, and he's like, all right, guys, let's go out there and have some fun.
Yeah. Well, look, I think also you saw his press conference, right? And how it was very genuine.
Mm-hmm.
You know this meant something to him, right? I think that's part of it, too. Mm-hmm. Guys know when guys are genuine, right?
Can't
when
fake
they care. You know?
Can't fake it.
No. Yeah, I think that's what's going on here.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about a couple of other players from tonight's game. Devin Booker almost got a triple-double tonight, just shy. 28 points, 9 assists, 9 rebounds. Shooting-wise, not as efficient of a night as we normally would like from Book. 9 of 23 from the field, 2 of 10 from deep. What'd you guys see from Book out there?
You know, he obviously was doing a lot in terms of, rebounding, assists, and everything. The shooting, just like everybody else, was not there tonight, untypically. So there were a few moments and a stretch in the fourth where he kind of could tell they needed some buckets. He hit some mid-range, got to the free throw line. So, look, I can't judge anybody offensively tonight because it was such a weird night. I mean, really, Grayson was the only guy that had an effective night offensively. Everybody else was literally hit or miss. So.
What I do still like about this game is the amount of assists on their total field goals made. That's the space you want to keep them in. And I also think the way they got to it with the movement, they continue to find ways to keep players in movement. You look at the first set of the game, setting the tone for everything else to come. It didn't feel sticky in terms of the ball holding on to players' hands for more than a couple of seconds. And I think there's value in that, even if it wasn't the most efficient game.
Yeah.
All right. And then from there, I do want to also give a shout out to Royce O'Neal. Also, the shooting not as efficient tonight, but 3 assists, 7 rebounds, 1 steal, and 1 block as well. And we saw, again, moments in this game where he was doing blue-collar boy things.
That's what they do.
Just more consistency
I'm
from
just
Royce.
hoping we speaking, not just talking because we like to hear ourselves talk. There's some merit there. Check them out. It's there.
Well, some of it is because we like to hear ourselves talk too. You don't get in this business unless you like to hear your own voice. So, well, at least I didn't. So.
At
by
least
the way,
a little bit.
I had a little fun with you, Nacho. I appreciate you playing along with it, but I think I figured out who Nacho is.
Who?
Matt Ishby is financial guy because he's really worried about that $50 million a year. So
Yeah, no, that
maybe
makes
he's the
sense.
financial guy.
That would make sense because why else would you care about Matt Ishby's money?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah,
not
I don't
ours,
think
so
Matt
we really
even cares
care.
all that
And
much.
why
He's
else would you
paying
be
$400
gunning for
million.
Josh Bartlestein as
Yeah.
well? Maybe this is the person underneath Bartlestein.
James Jones? I don't think James has that kind of talent.
Well,
So I have seen a few comments in the chat about Ryan Dunn tonight. He finished with a steal, 2 assists, and 2 rebounds. Was 0 of 4 from the field, 0 of 3 from deep. A couple comments in the chat tonight about Ryan Dunn looking like a rookie in tonight's game. And he is a rookie. Even though we've been very, very spoiled with Ryan Dunn so far, there are going to be moments and time throughout this season where we don't get a quote-unquote Ryan Dunn performance.
I did the math. This is his 6th game in the NBA.
Oh.
So I think it's all right for him to have it all night. I know Eric might not agree. We had to check out.
Wait, hold
earlier.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. You know, the people who set the expectations too high for Ryan Dunn, man, like you can't get ahead of yourself. He's gonna be good, but let's just, let's go slowly. I don't know who these people are who are
I don't
talking
either.
Hall of Fame and raising 0 into the rafters. Like
Dunn?
Yeah,
What's that?
I don't know. They need to slow down because Ryan Dunn's going to be good, but he's going to have games like this.
Yes, but it is an important thing to continue to remind yourself, even though we're only 6 games into the season. There are going to be ups and downs when it comes to Ryan Dunn. Also Iguodala as well, because at the end of the day, they are rookies, and that's just inevitable.
These games are in place to humble you sometimes. And by you, I mean sometimes that might be Ryan, sometimes that might be his stance. There's a balancing act there. He's going to be fine, but these moments are inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, everybody. Again, I sound like a broke. Everybody had a bad night offensively.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to hold him to it.
Yes. All right. Let's go ahead and take a peek at the Suns report card and see how they did tonight based off of the thresholds that we have set for them. So what did we have
I
here?
put Big 3 combined for 75 points. They did not. They got 2 of 3.
No.
Well, that's okay. Close enough.
That would
So
have
they
been
were 2
impressive.
of 3.
75 of 103 points.
In tonight's game. They did attempt the 35 assists, right? Or no? Or was this the wrong one?
They got 30 assists. They
29,
attempted.
yep. 29 assists.
Or 29. So
Yep.
they attempted the 3-pointers. That they needed
Oh,
to,
35. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. So just shy of that one. Okay, we'll move on from the report card. We'll look at our report card. How about that? We all have pregame picks on the Bet365 app. Unfortunately, we all took L's in this one, which means we are all $10 lighter in our earnings. And the report card looks like this. Steven is a minus 41.67 on the season. Eric is a minus 39.50. I have $23.50 to my name. And unfortunately, Espo is in the lead with $70.
The crown ain't going anywhere. It's staying right here. right?
No.
Yeah, it's staying
No.
right here.
You're
No.
asking your competition.
No,
to
I'm not
support you.
asking.
No, the answer
I'm not
no.
asking. I'm just making it clear. It's staying right here.
I have the real Suns report card now. If you
Okay,
would like
good,
to do
because that one threw me for a mad
The
loop.
report card before was like when a kid tried to forge the report card.
That's okay.
And say,
Before
oh, yeah,
we
no, I
get
got
to that, though,
75
I do
points.
want to say one thing. I have been swinging for the fences with all my bets so far this year, but I think I might reel it back in and go back to OG Lindsay.
Yeah, go back to your
status here.
dinking and
So-
dunking. It's worked so well for
What
you the last
fences
2
were you
years.
swinging for?
I had a plus
It wasn't-
700
it
and a
wasn't
plus
three-
500.
It wasn't 375-foot fences. You were swinging for picket fences in the backyard or probably the front yard.
Listen,
I had
actually.
plus
Steven.
4,000 tonight.
Absolutely.
All right?
I can't let you get away with
A
that.
plus 700 is swinging for the fences when
her.
it comes to me.
Okay, maybe for her. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean,
by my own standards.
I think she took a negative.
You know
last
how we
year.
have to like hold
Minus
KD
120.
and Book to like their own set of standards? It's the
Mhm.
same thing, but a little bit reversed for me
Okay.
over here.
Okay.
That's where we are. Okay,
Okay.
you want to look at the real Suns report card from tonight's game? We're 2 of 5. So we didn't reach the 30 assist mark, but like you guys said, we had 29, so just shy of that one. They did attempt 35 plus threes, which is a positive. They held their opponent to 114 points or less. They did commit. I have 12 turnovers. Is it more when you look at the team turnovers?
I saw 14.
I thought it was 14.
On the
yeah,
team
so-
side, it might be 14 then total turnovers. But the big three did not combine for 75 points tonight. And that was also another reason, Eric and Steven, why you guys lost your bets tonight.
Yes.
You had Book and KD on there. And unfortunately, you guys took DA as well.
But I mean, you look at that. Essentially, you had 4 of the 5.
Yeah.
I mean, within 1 on the assists and the turnovers. So
Mhm.
you did the little things tonight, even though you didn't have the shots fall down. So big part of why they got there. And you bring up DA. Thank you for your service tonight, sir.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
That's the reason why I lost.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
A big
why we're
reason why I
Thank you for your
lost.
service tonight,
We are
sir.
very
No.
thankful for that.
Absolutely not. Eric can vouch for me on that too.
I'm so mad at myself that I found myself rooting for Deandre Ayton again and then getting disappointed. Like, it felt like I time traveled. It was terrible.
I mean, listen, it's tough. It's tough out there. I feel you guys. We've all been there,
No,
right,
you don't.
Espo,
You
in the
didn't- You didn't
negative?
pick them tonight, though. So
We've
no.
always been in the or we've
Look.
all been there in the negative, deep down.
I
Trust
was,
me.
I was negative like 2 days ago, and then I hit that one, and now I'm sitting on top.
Facts.
You were like
game-
negative 200 last
Th-
year.
This game ain't for the faint of heart, right? Lindsay's gonna go back to her lame ways, and you'll be right up there with me.
And you'll be back down in the red soon enough.
Yeah, and then I'll hit another big one, and I'll beat you guys. I mean, that's just the way
what
this
you
goes.
think. Anyway, all right. Let's hear from Bradley Beal on the fourth quarter and how they approach it.
We got comfortable. We just F with the game at the end of the game. That's all it was. I think we just got lackadaisical. Weren't making plays defensively. They start hitting shots, and it's the NBA. You let a few guys hit a couple, and 20 goes to 5 real quick. So
Is it a good learning experience for future, or do you chalk it up as what you just said?
a little bit of both. I mean, we're not going to just ignore it. We still got to address it and make sure we don't develop those habits into that. But we know we got to close it out better than we did.
I love that he specifically brought up, like, we don't want to develop those habits, and we know we got to close out better than we did. Like, again, it's that accountability. It's going back to the Coach Bud conversations of, like, these habits have to be broken that we've seen, and we can't build even worse habits in replace of them.
No, I mean, granted, if you don't know that that's not what you should be doing, that's the problem to begin with. But
Yes.
but like I do appreciate the accountability because it would have been easy to make a lot of excuses tonight, right? And just be like, well, blah 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 this and blah. No, it was just we can't have this happen. It's not acceptable, and that's what I appreciate is no excuse in it.
Yep. The first step to changing things is acknowledgement. And I think that I find solace in knowing that they let last season sit with them for as much as they did. They came into media day speaking to, we got this, that, and the third happening last season, and we didn't like that, so we plan on trying to change those things. And Budenholzer is making sure that they're living to those standards on a daily basis, from how he's coaching it to how they're being principled with things and everything in between there. So I'm glad to hear that, but you got to start seeing that work as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's only 6 games into the season. I do believe that they're on the right path. They're on the right track. Like you said multiple times in the show, Espo, if this was last year, this is a game we would have lost. And our season right now, 5-1, would look completely different. It could be 3-3 or
2
even
and
worse.
4,
Let's
yeah.
be honest. It could be even worse if this was last year. Things feel like they are trending in the right direction. And even though tonight's game was a Buscemi, I'm still having way more fun this season than I was last season.
Oh, yeah. I think my biggest concern tonight wasn't anything that happened in terms of shots made or whatever. It was when Bradley Beal again was shaking that arm and his hand as if he hit that elbow again on something. And, that concerns me a lot. I had a nerve issue in my elbow that messed with my hand, and I couldn't do certain things with it. And it was my left hand, the fact that he's having obvious problems with that shooting hand because of his elbow is concerning. And hopefully it was just got bumped, felt weird, and it's not a big deal because, again, availability is the biggest thing when it comes to him.
Yeah, and hopefully Gerald Bourguet will be joining us here shortly, and maybe he'll have a little bit of additional information, see if anybody talked to Bradley Beal about that little bit of wincing that we saw from him later in the game. But we do have Grayson Allen on adjusting to life as a sixth man.
It's definitely different, especially even with just last year, starting and playing extended minutes at a time. It's very easy to be in flow and in rhythm when you're out there most of the time and starting the game off that way. So it's just a little bit different. I think it's a little bit harder, but it's just something to get used to, and trying to get myself in that rhythm quicker by making some play. It doesn't always have to be knocking down the first shot or something. Just make a play, make a good extra pass, get a block, get a steal, get a rebound, something that helps you get into rhythm, into the flow a little bit better, quicker.
It's got to be tough to adjust to that, right? I mean, because he started so much of his recent career and getting in a rhythm off the bench, especially after you've missed time too, right? And you're trying to get into midseason flow with a new position, trying to figure out how to get yourself in rhythm, just coming and checking in to a game. I think it does take a little time to adjust to. He looked all right with it tonight, though. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that. I think he's picking up on it just all right.
That's why this team is projected to be so deadly. You have all of these top-end pieces that are all NBA caliber, top-tier scoring, and then you look at that next tier, most teams don't have much if you're constructed this way. They have somebody else that can score in that similar spectrum on any given night, whether one of them is slipping or if they're all playing at their best, because he just accents off of everything that they do. Or he can go off script and do what he does without them sometimes as well. So he's an embarrassment of riches in the sense to have him with this team and around them and everything that they have established. It makes the Suns tough.
I mean, it's nice to have more depth. Never going to find anybody complaining about having options down your bench when you can turn to at any point in time.
Yeah, I mean, it beats last year. We'll say that. By the way, where in the world is Gerald? Are we sure that nothing happened in the locker room tonight to him? Man. I know it may be an epidemic around the NBA now. Do you want to talk a little bit about what happened tonight,
That's
Lindsay?
a great question. I hope Gerald's okay, because apparently word on the street is another reporter got punched or shoved, depending on who you want to listen to, by Joel Embiid tonight. Craziness. I think that was probably the wildest thing that I've seen on NBA Twitter in a hot minute. Probably since the Draymond punch a few years back.
Yeah, or the what was it? Stewart punching our boy there.
But we didn't get to see that, so it didn't feel true. Even though it was bigger and we haven't gotten to see this one yet. That's true.
I did find it. I'm torn by this. I did see a funny tweet. It was StatMuse. It said that Joel Embiid has one technical foul, one assault, and 0 minutes played this season. Thought that was a fun stat. I'm kind of torn by this because what the columnist Mark Hayes wrote that led to this altercation, where he wrote about Embiid's brother who passed away and Embiid's son, and how basically he's not trying to honor his late brother with the way he isn't out there to play. Honestly, sometimes you got to go in there and you got to face the music. And I don't necessarily blame, granted, there's more adult ways to handle it, right? But I don't blame Joel Embiid for being pissed off at this guy for what he wrote.
See, my thing is that I think we need to have a little bit more context before anybody can fully pass judgment as far as like what did the interaction look like leading up to said shove / punch, whatever. But honestly, as of right now, I might be on team Joel Embiid. I don't know. Just very early thoughts, but I don't know.
Look, I'm never for somebody assaulting another human being, right? I'll be clear on that. But there also is an unwritten rule that if you're going to write something like that, you better be man enough to walk into that locker room and deal with whatever's coming your way. And Joel Embiid being pissed off was what was coming this guy's way. Because there's a line, right? You can question a guy between those lines on the court, right? You can question a guy whether he's fighting hard to get back from injury. But if you bring a person's family into it on top of that, you have now crossed the line. And if he wants to take you to task, you have to deal with that. So Mark Hayes wrote something that he knew was over that line. Marcus. There is a Marcus. Very confused. Marcus Hayes in Philly from the Inquirer knew what he was writing, knew he crossed that line, and had to have known that Joel Embiid was not going to take kindly to that.
Yeah, I agree. But it was an interesting thing, something that happened in the NBA. We'll absolutely keep an eye out on it because the Sixers are going to be in town on Monday to face the Suns, but that's for another day. Now it's time to bring in the fourth member of our squad for today's show, Gerald Bourguet.
Beyond the light, there shall only be one. Welcome,
Hi, Gerald.
Oh, there we go. Now I can hear you.
What's going on? Did you have a fun time at tonight's game?
I did. It was a little bit of a roller coaster. It got a little dicey down the stretch there, but they pulled out the win, and they're 5-1, which is tied for their best start through 6 games in franchise history. So they'll take that.
Any altercations in the locker room, or are we good on that front?
No altercations in the locker room. So that's good. We didn't write anything about deceased family members, which is always a positive start in that regard.
Yeah, and Gerald, I didn't go to journalism school. I know everybody's surprised by that. I'm guessing that's one of those rules that they teach you. Don't cross that line, I'm guessing.
Yeah, just don't be a hack is generally a good place to start, and write terrible things about deceased family members. That's a good place to start, but also just a general rule of thumb. Don't write or say anything that you are not prepared to write or say in front of the person in question. Not advocating for violence or anything like that, but it was a shove. It was not like he beat the man or anything like that. So yeah, if you're going to write something like that and then show up in the locker room, you better be prepared to deal with a man that is much larger than you and is probably pretty angry about it.
Now that the elephant in the room has been addressed, this obviously wasn't the prettiest game in terms of the on-court product that was on display, but it still felt like there was very encouraging vibes from Mike Budenholzer when speaking to how he assessed the game and how he spoke to his team in response to it and what he decided to highlight in terms of what caught his attention. What was your assessment of just the general response from Mike Budenholzer and how it kind of was perceived by the rest of his roster?
I think he handled it well. I think there was an acknowledgement that fourth quarter wasn't great. I think he pointed to turnovers, stagnant offense. When he was initially asked about it, he kind of said, I would rather talk about the third quarter, to be honest. And it was a joke, but also, like, as we followed up on it, he did really want to focus more on that third quarter because I think for him and for this group, it's important to distance what happened tonight from what we saw multiple times last season in the fourth quarters. And this happens to every team in the NBA. I know that we are much more traumatized by how many times it happened to this Suns team last year, but it's a very different team. And Mike Budenholzer, when asked about, this chronic problem that the Suns had last year, he was saying, I'm more focused on this year's team because this is a different team. And he was saying, we're going to take the good with the bad here. It's going to be a lesson for us. But we were also able to win the game because of the way that we played defense, because of the way that shots finally fell for us in the third quarter. He said he felt like the ball was moving well in the first half. They just weren't making shots. We saw that explosion in the third quarter, finally overdue. And then in the fourth quarter, they just kind of reverted back to some bad habits. So like we've been saying, it's going to take some time to stamp out some of those bad tendencies, but I don't put this in the same class as what we saw last year when they lost so many leads and lost a couple of games because of that.
Gerald, it felt like a weird night overall, and you and I texted about this a little bit, but was the crowd really booing Deandre Ayton and at one point cheering for Yusuf Nurkic to back him down? It just seemed very bizarre in general tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there were boos for DeAndre Ayton when he was announced in the starting lineup. There were boos whenever he touched the ball and was at the free throw line. And then it was more cheering in anticipation for Nurkic because him backing DA down in the post was one of those plays that was taking forever. The shot clock was winding down, and everyone in the building knew like this is the Nurk versus DA debate playing out in real life. So it was more anticipation of seeing what was going to happen. But it's unfortunate because I don't think DA deserves to be booed in that way. But I do understand, especially with people's current angst over the way that Yusuf Nurkic is playing. I think in a lot of ways, some fans are disappointed with the way that DA performed here. And if he had performed better in their minds, we wouldn't be dealing with the center situation that we have right now. It kind of felt like that was playing into what was happening in real time tonight.
Gerald, Book was so close to getting that triple-double in tonight's game. Is it ever going to happen in the regular season, or is it just reserved for playoffs at this point? Do we just have to deal with that?
We might have to. And I think he's dealing with it that way too, because he was asked about it and he said, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. And he started laughing. He was like, you know what, I'll take him in the playoffs. I think it's the same thing with when he couldn't make 7 threes in a game for forever, but he had already done it in the playoffs. He's like, you know what, whatever. I already did it in the playoffs. It'll be nice when that finally does happen. But yeah, falling 1 rebound and 1 assist short, that sucks, man. He's right there.
And we're back.
Oh my God, you guys, we did it. The mouse died, which means we couldn't unmute anything. So Blessings to every single one of you who just sat there in silence.
Hello said it best. This is like watching the first quarter again.
Oh my God, you guys should have seen the chaos that was just happening behind the
I love
scenes.
that Gerald didn't go, hey, maybe I'll just.
Yeah, Gerald, what the heck, dude?
I didn't know if I was muted or not.
Anyway, Gerald, I have an additional question for you since you stuck around and hung out with us. Did Bradley Beal say anything about his elbow after tonight's game? Because I know at one point in time it looked like he was sort of like shaking it out, wincing a little bit. Any updates on that?
Yeah, I asked him after the game in the locker room, and he was saying, yeah, the elbow's fine. It felt good to be back out there again. And I was jokingly asking because earlier today when he was talking about it, he didn't know at what point during that Lakers game he kind of first aggravated it because he was saying he fell to the ground so many different times. But he was saying, yeah, tonight I barely even fell at all, so it was great. Elbow feels fine. So hopefully nothing out of that, and it's not one of those situations where it'll react to tonight's activity later on.
The Mousegate adversity took place.
What's with Gerald and mice and rats? It's just like a running theme
Gerald's
here,
fault.
I think. Sorry, keep going.
Obviously, they took a almost franchise high 52 3-point attempts today. I think a lot of the attempts that they did get on goal were healthy ones. They just weren't falling today. A lot of shots were short in particular. What was kind of your personal assessment of the shots that they were able to generate against the defense they saw today?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think in the first half, especially, they missed a lot of good looks. They got up a great number of threes against the Blazers defense that just isn't really equipped to guard a Suns team like this. I thought the ball was moving well. They were generating good looks. They just couldn't make any of them. I think Book was 1 for 8 from the floor at one point in time. It felt like KD was kind of the only one who really had any sort of a rhythm in that first half there. And then the floodgates opened in the third, like we were kind of expecting they had to at some point, just get a few looks to fall. They scored more points in the third quarter than they did in the entire first half. And then it just kind of felt like Brad said afterwards in the locker room, they got comfortable in that fourth quarter. They weren't doing what they were doing defensively. Like they did a really great job in that third quarter, especially after the first half, of cracking down on offensive rebounds. They gave up a ton of second chance points in that first half, did a better job in the third quarter, kind of went back to a few bad habits in that fourth. And it felt like that kind of led to more stagnant offense because when you're not getting stops, you're not playing in the flow that this team wants to play at, the tempo that this team wants to play at. And I think we saw that in the fourth quarter there, where they only wound up with 16 points.
Gerald, I owe the chat this since we subjected them to whatever that was you and I were doing during the silent portion of the program. Grayson Allen, Amelia wants to know, does he have a bubble butt officially?
I don't know. I would say thick with 2 C's, but I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question specifically.
Well, Gerald, I'm going to need you to figure out how to answer that question because the chat requested that our next draft be best bubble butts in NBA history. So get to studying, okay?
And I already requested that day off on live. Everybody saw it. Everybody can confirm. So you stuck
Request
here, but
denied.
But make sure it's not during practice too, so you'll be here for it. Don't worry about that.
Gerald, anything else stand out to you from the coach or the players tonight?
No, I think Bubble Butt puts a nice little bow on this one.
I agree. Thank you for joining us, Gerald. We appreciate you. Everybody be sure to follow Gerald on social at Gerald Bourget. And of course, read all of his articles over at gophnx.com. And double bonus, if you become a diehard, you get access to his diehard only content, which I would say is even better, but they're all really great. So if you just really want more, that's the best way to get it. Bye, Gerald.
Thanks, Lindsay. Bye, guys.
All right, gentlemen. I think that'll put a good stopping point for us for today's show.
I think about 10 minutes ago was a good stopping point.
A mime situation, which if you're listening on audio, we're going to probably cut out
that's
the however long. So if you're like, what happened? We just went silent for like 3 minutes straight. And Espo and Gerald were miming at each other. So if you want to see it, You just got to go to YouTube.
That's gonna be the clip request for today.
100%. 100%. I'm tweeting that out. It's so funny.
I mean, we didn't have any other choice, but we got to entertain the people.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We appreciate you. If you're here on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. If you're listening wherever you get your podcast, rate, review, and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. We really appreciate it. Also, don't forget to follow the show on social at PHNX_Suns. You can also follow me at Lindsay Smith AZ. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. Eric is with us behind the Mac. You can follow him at Eric Ruby with a K. And of course, you can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, take us home.
We fell short of 300 likes, so Nacho, you're safe for another post game. Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.